Welcome, dear wanderer. Tonight, we leave behind the noise and haste of the day. Find a comfortable position, let your shoulders drop, and take a long, slow breath. As the lights dim, we set sail on an ancient, starlit sea. We journey with Jason and the Argonauts aboard the legendary ship Argo, gliding through the mist towards the rising sun. It is a tale of courage, of blue waters, and of the search for the Golden Fleece. But here, the waves are gentle, and the wind is merely a whisper to guide you into slumber. Let the rhythm of the oars and the song of the sea carry you drifting away into deep relaxation. Chapter 1. The Call of the Sea. Part 1. The Kingdom in the Mist. Long, long ago, in an age when the world was younger and the boundary between the earth and the heavens was thin as a veil of morning mist, there lay a kingdom by the sea. This was Iolcus. It was a place of quiet stone walls and ancient olive groves, nestled securely in the deep, protective shadow of the great Mount Pelion. Imagine, if you will, the morning light breaking over this land. It is a soft, pale gold, spilling over the peaks of the mountains and trickling down into the valleys below. The air here is always thick with the scent of wild thyme, crushing underfoot, and the sharp, clean tang of the Aegean Sea. Can you smell it? That mix of earth and salt, fresh and invigorating, yet deeply soothing. In the palace, which stood high upon a hill overlooking the harbor, King Pelias sat upon his throne. But his mind was not on the beauty of the sunrise. It was clouded by a prophecy, a whisper from the sacred oracle that had drifted into his life like a cold draft in a warm room. Beware, the oracle had murmured, the voice sounding like dry leaves rustling together. Beware the man who comes down from the mountain wearing only one sandal. And so the king watched. Day after day, he stood by the high windows, watching the dusty roads that wound through the cypress trees like ribbons of pale silk. He watched the shadows lengthen and shorten. He listened to the cicadas singing their endless song in the heat of the afternoon. He waited. Part 2. The Boy from the Wild. High above the city, on the slopes of Mount Pelion, lived a young man named Jason. He had not grown up within the stone walls of the palace. His nursery had been the wild caves, his lullabies the howling of wolves and the rushing of mountain streams. He had been raised by Chiron, the wise and ancient centaur, who taught him the secrets of the stars and the language of the birds. Jason's spirit was bright as the morning sun, untamed and pure. The day came when destiny pulled at him, a gentle tug in his chest telling him it was time to descend, to claim his birthright. Picture him walking down the mountain path. The leaves of the oak trees form a canopy overhead, filtering the sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. Crunch, crunch, crunch go his feet on the fallen leaves. The air is cool here, smelling of pine needles and damp earth. As he neared the city, his path was crossed by the river Norris. The river was swollen with melted snow, rushing over its stones with an eager, bubbling sound. Splash, gurgle, splash. Jason stepped into the icy water. It swirled around his ankles, cold and invigorating. Midway across, the current tugged at him playfully. His foot slipped into the soft mud of the riverbed. He pulled, but the mud held fast. With a stumble and a splash, he freed his foot, but his sandal remained behind, buried in the silt, a small offering to the river spirits. He stepped onto the opposite bank, water dripping from his bare foot. He did not look back. He walked on towards the city gates, the warm dust of the road clinging to his damp skin. One foot shod in leather, the other bare against the earth. Part 3. The Meeting of Fates. When Jason entered the marketplace of Iolcus, a hush fell over the crowd. It was not a silence of fear, but of recognition. The people stopped their bartering. The potter paused his wheel. The weaver stilled her shuttle. All eyes drifted to the young man's feet. King Peleus, riding through the square in his chariot, saw him. The prophecy echoed in his mind, loud as a thunderclap. The man with one sandal. The confrontation was quiet. There was no shouting, no clash of swords. It was heavy with the weight of unspoken fates. The king looked at the young man, seeing the strength in his limbs and the clear, honest light in his eyes. He knew he could not simply banish him. Destiny had to be met, not fought. "Who are you?" the king asked, his voice steady but low. "I am Jason," the young man replied, his voice calm as a windless sea. "I have come to claim my home." The king nodded slowly. He stroked his beard, his mind racing like a trapped bird. "To be a king," Peleus said, "one must prove he is more than a man. He must do what others cannot." The king pointed a finger toward the eastern horizon, where the sea met the sky in a hazy blue line. "Go," said King Peleus. "Go to the ends of the earth, to the land of Colchis where the sun rises. Bring back the Golden Fleece, the sacred treasure that glows with the light of the gods themselves. It is guarded by a dragon that never sleeps, in a grove sacred to Ares. Bring this to me, and the kingdom shall be yours." It was a task meant to be a death sentence. But Jason did not rage. He stood tall, the sea breeze ruffling his hair. He looked at the horizon, and he felt a strange sense of peace. He knew, as the ocean knows the moon, that this was his path. He simply nodded. "I will go," he whispered. Part 4. The Gathering of the Heroes. The word went out. It drifted across Greece like the scent of rain before a summer storm. It traveled on the wind through the deep valleys of Arcadia. It echoed in the great stone halls of Mycenae. It whispered through the dark pine forests of Thrace. "Come," the wind seemed to say. "Come to the sea. A great journey begins." And they came. The heroes of the age, men whose names would one day be etched in the stars, laid down their plows and their lyres, their hunting spears and their crowns. They felt the call in their blood. First came Heracles. Imagine a man so large he seemed carved from the mountain itself. He carried a club cut from a wild olive tree, the wood gnarled and strong. His steps were heavy and sure, shaking the earth gently with each stride. Thud, thud, thud. He wore the skin of a lion, the golden fur gleaming, but his eyes were thoughtful and deep, filled with a quiet sadness and a great strength. Then came the twins, Castor and Pollux, from the land of Sparta. They moved with the grace of dancers, inseparable, their movements mirroring each other. Their laughter rang out like silver bells in the crisp morning air, bright and infectious. They brought with them the spirit of brotherhood, a bond that nothing in the world could break. From the north came Orpheus, the master of song. He was different from the others. He carried no shield, no sword. Upon his back was slung a lyre made of tortoise shell and curved horns. It was said that when Orpheus played, the rivers would pause their flow to listen, and the wild beasts, the lions and the bears, would lie down in the grass, tamed by the beauty of his melody. His presence brought a calmness to the gathering, a promise that even in the darkest night, there would be beauty. Peleus came, and Telamon, and the brothers Zetz and Calais, the sons of the north wind. These two had wings upon their ankles, delicate and translucent as dragonfly wings, that fluttered softly like the leaves of a poplar tree when they walked. They gathered on the beach at Pagasae. It was a motley band of kings and dreamers, warriors and poets, united by a single purpose. The fires were lit on the sand as evening fell. The smell of roasting meat and baking bread mingled with the cool, salty sea breeze. They sat in a circle, the firelight dancing in their eyes, casting long, flickering shadows on the sand. They spoke in low voices of the journey to come. The sound of the waves lapping against the shore was a rhythmic lullaby behind their words. "Hush, hush," the water said. "All will be well." Part 5. The building of the Argo. To cross the wine-dark sea, to venture where no map had been drawn, they needed a ship like no other. And so, under the watchful eye of the goddess Athena, the Argo was born. The construction was a slow, reverent process. It was not a task of haste, but of love. The wood was chosen with great care, tall, straight pines from the slopes of Mount Pelion, trees that had stood for 100 years drinking in the sunlight and the rain. They were felled with gratitude, the woodcutters whispering thanks to the dryads of the forest. The air in the shipyard was filled with the rich, resinous scent of fresh-cut timber and the sharp, clean tang of pitch used to seal the hull. Chop, chop, chop went the axes, a steady, hypnotic rhythm that echoed off the cliffs. The heroes worked side by side with the master shipwright Argus. They smoothed the planks with stones until they were as soft as silk to the touch. They bent the ribs of the ship with steam and patience, curving them like the rib cage of a great whale. Athena herself brought a gift. It was a piece of sacred oak from the grove of Dodona, a place where the trees were said to speak with the voices of gods. This wood was ancient, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, its grain deep and dark. It was placed in the prow of the ship, carved into a figurehead. This was no ordinary wood. It was a guardian spirit, a piece of living magic that could whisper warnings and guidance in times of danger. When she was finished, the Argo was a thing of breathtaking beauty. She was long and sleek, her hull painted in reds and blues that gleamed in the sunlight. She sat on the wooden rollers on the beach, eager for the touch of the water, vibrating with a silent energy, like a seabird poised for flight. Part 6. The Farewell. The day of departure dawned pale and misty. The world was quiet, holding its breath. The fog hugged the coastline, softening the edges of the rocks and the trees. In the city of Iolcus, the women and the old men gathered to say goodbye. There was weeping, soft and mournful, like the cooing of doves in the eaves. Jason's mother, Alcimede, clung to him. Her hands, papery and thin, grasped his tunic. She looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "My son," she whispered, her voice trembling. "My light, why must you go? The sea is wide and cruel." Jason held her gently. He felt the frailty of her bones, the strength of her love. "It is the way of things, mother," he said softly, smoothing her gray hair. "The ship is ready. The sea calls. I must answer." He walked away from the palace, forcing himself not to look back. He fixed his gaze on the shore, where the Argo waited. The old priestess of Artemis met him on the road. She did not speak, but offered a silent blessing, her hand trembling as she touched his arm, her eyes filled with ancient knowledge. Down on the beach, the heroes stood ready. They had loaded the ship with care. There were amphorae of thick, dark wine, sacks of golden grain, jars of olive oil, and warm cloaks of heavy wool to ward off the chill of the open ocean. They took their places on the rowing benches. They cast lots for the leadership, but all eyes turned to Heracles. The great man shook his head, his voice a low rumble like distant thunder. "No," he said, placing a hand on Jason's shoulder. "Jason brought us together. Jason shall lead." And so, Jason stood at the stern, the captain of the greatest crew the world had ever seen. He poured a libation of wine into the sea from a golden cup, a crimson offering to Zeus, lord of the sky, and Poseidon, lord of the deep. He prayed for safe passage, his voice carried away by the wind. The wine vanished into the white foam, a gift accepted by the deep. Part 7. The Song That Moved the Earth. The moment had come. The ship was heavy, resting on the sand, reluctant to leave the safety of the shore. The heroes took their places at the oars. Their muscles tensed, their breath held. "Heave!" cried Jason. They pulled, their backs strained, their arms corded with effort. The wooden rollers groaned beneath the keel. Creak, but the ship did not move. It was as if the earth itself wanted to keep them. The air was thick with tension. The men grunted, sweat beading on their brows, sliding down their necks. Then Orpheus picked up his lyre. He sat cross-legged at the prow, his face serene. He did not play a marching tune. He did not play a song of war or strength. He played a melody that was as old as the world itself, a sound that seemed to come from the very stones and the roots of the trees. He plucked the strings, plink, plunk, hummed, and the notes floated out over the beach, clear and pure and incredibly sweet. He sang of the creation of the earth. He sang of how the sky was separated from the sea in the beginning of time. He sang of how the stars were hung in the velvet darkness of the void, one by one, like lamps. He sang of the mountains rising from the mist and the rivers finding their way to the ocean, twisting and turning like silver snakes. His voice rose and fell like the gentle swell of the tide. Hum, thrum, went the lyre. The rhythm was steady, relaxing, hypnotic. Under the spell of the music, the strain left the heroes' bodies. They forgot the weight of the ship. They forgot their fear. They found a new strength, a rhythm that matched the song. They breathed in time with the melody, in and out. They pulled together, not with jagged force, but with a fluid, unified motion, like a single great organism. The Argo listened. The sacred wood of the ship seemed to awaken. She shivered. Then she slid forward. Swoosh. She moved over the rollers, faster and faster. With a great rush of sound, she plunged into the surf. Splash. The water embraced her, splashing high against the prow in a joyful spray. She bobbed on the waves, buoyant and light, free at last. Part 8. Into the night. The sun began to dip below the horizon, setting the water ablaze with orange, purple, and deep indigo fire. The heroes rowed out of the harbor, the rhythm of the oars dipping into the water creating a soothing, repetitive sound. Splash, creak. Splash, creak. The land of Iolcus grew smaller and smaller. The great mountain Pelion became a silhouette against the darkening sky. The lights of the houses twinkled like fallen stars, lonely and distant, then vanished into the gloom. They were alone, alone on the vast, breathing ocean. Night fell, wrapping the ship in a blanket of cool darkness. The moon rose, full and pearlescent, a great glowing orb that cast a silvery road upon the water, leading them onward. The stars came out one by one. Orion the hunter with his belt of 3 bright gems, the Pleiades, a cluster of diamonds, the Great Bear, turning slowly around the pole star, watchful guardians looking down from their silent heights. The rowers rested. The great sail was hoisted to catch the gentle night breeze. It filled with a soft snap, and the ship glided forward with a hiss of foam. On the deck, the heroes laid down to sleep. They wrapped themselves tight in their wool cloaks, the wood of the deck hard but comforting beneath them. The gentle rocking of the ship was the best cradle they could ask for. Rock and sway, rock and sway. Orpheus sat at the prow, keeping watch. He played softly, a lullaby for the weary, a song for the fishes deep below and the birds sleeping on the wing. The notes drifted up to the Milky Way, joining the music of the spheres. The waves lapped against the hull, lap, 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 whispering ancient stories to those who would listen. Jason lay awake for a moment, watching the mast sway back and forth against the star-filled sky. He felt the vastness of the sea, the depth of the waters below, and the infinity of the heavens above. He felt small, yet held by the universe, a speck of life in the great, beautiful dark. One by one, the heroes drifted off. Heracles' deep breathing joined the rhythm of the sea. Castor and Pollux slept side by side, dreaming of horses running through tall grass in the sunlight. The Argo sailed on through the peaceful night, a tiny speck of courage in a world of water and shadow, carrying its sleeping cargo toward the dawn of a new adventure. Chapter 2: The Island of Flowers and the Whispering Woods. Part 1: Dawn on the Open Water. The night drifted away slowly, peeling back its dark velvet layers to reveal the soft gray of early morning. On the open sea, dawn does not break with a shout, but with a whisper. First, the stars grew pale and retreated into the depths of the sky. Then, a line of violet appeared on the eastern horizon, bleeding into rose and soft apricot. On the deck of the Argo, the air was cool and damp with dew. The wooden planks were slick with moisture. One by one, the heroes stirred. They did not speak much. The silence of the ocean was too vast to be broken by idle chatter. They watched the sun climb out of the water, a perfect golden disk that warmed their faces and turned the gray sea into a shimmering sheet of turquoise. The sails caught the morning breeze, whoosh, and the ship leaned gently, cutting a white path through the blue. The rhythmic creaking of the rigging was a familiar, comforting song. Creak, sigh, creak, sigh. It was the sound of progress, of moving forward into the unknown with grace and purpose. Jason stood at the prow, shading his eyes against the glare. Ahead, a green shape rose from the mist. It was an island, lush and verdant, floating on the water like a great emerald leaf. Part 2: The Fragrant Isle. This was Lemnos, the island of flowers. As the Argo drew closer, the scent of the land drifted out to meet them. It was a perfume of wild thyme, blooming sage, and heavy, sweet grapes ripening in the sun. They anchored in a quiet bay where the water was as clear as glass. You could see the white sand of the seabed, rippled by the currents, and small silver fish darting through the shadows of the hull. The heroes waded ashore, the warm water lapping at their knees. They were tired from the rowing, their hands calloused and their shoulders aching. But Lemnos was a place of rest. The island was ruled by Queen Hypsipyle. She welcomed them not with weapons, but with garlands of woven ivy and cups of cool, sweet wine. The women of Lemnos led the heroes to soft grassy meadows shaded by ancient plane trees. For a time, the quest was forgotten. The days on Lemnos were long and lazy. The sun seemed to move slower here. The heroes spent their afternoons lying in the tall grass, watching the clouds drift by in shapes of dragons and chariots. They bathed in the natural springs that bubbled up from the earth, the warm water soothing their weary muscles. At night, they feasted under the stars. The air was filled with the sound of laughter and the strumming of lyres. Orpheus played melodies that were light and playful, songs of summer and sweet breezes. The firelight flickered on their faces, warm and golden. It was a dream of peace, a pause in the great song of their journey. Rest, the wind whispered through the olive branches. Rest and heal. Part 3. The rhythm of the oars. But a hero's heart is restless. It beats in time with the tide, and the tide must always turn. Heracles was the first to remember the purpose of their voyage. He stood on the beach, looking out at the Argo bobbing alone in the bay, and he felt the pull of the horizon. "We must go," he said, his voice deep and rumbling like the earth itself. "The fleece waits for no man." And so, with heavy hearts but renewed strength, they bid farewell to the fragrant isle. They climbed back aboard their wooden home. The anchor was hauled up, dripping and covered in seaweed. Heave and pull. The oars sliced into the water once more. The rhythm returned, steady and hypnotic. Splash, glide. Splash, glide. The island of Lemnos faded behind them, becoming a haze of green and then a memory. They sailed north, through the Hellespont, a narrow strip of water that separated the continents. The current here was strong, twisting and turning like a great blue snake. Typhus, the helmsman, held the tiller with a steady hand. His eyes read the water like a scroll, seeing the currents and the eddies before they appeared. The Argo danced through the strait, guided by skill and the favor of the winds. They passed mountains that touched the clouds and forests that grew down to the water's edge. Part 4. The coast of Mysia. As the sun began to lower on a day of long rowing, the heroes grew thirsty. Their water jars were empty, dry as old bones. They spotted a sheltered cove along the coast of Mysia and turned the ship toward land. This was a wilder place than Lemnos. The trees here were tall and dark, pines and oaks that grew thick and close together. The air smelled of damp earth, pine resin, and fern. They beached the ship on the gray pebbles. Heracles, eager to stretch his mighty legs, took his water pitcher and walked into the forest. At his side walked young Hylas, his companion, a boy with hair like spun gold and a spirit as light as a bird. "I will find a spring," Hylas said, his voice eager. "I will bring the clearest water for our meal." He ran ahead, his feet light on the mossy path. The forest swallowed him up, the branches closing behind him like curtains. The woods were quiet, save for the snapping of twigs and the distant call of a cuckoo. Hylas walked deeper and deeper, drawn by the sound of trickling water. Drip, drop, trickle. He found it in a small clearing, a pool of water so still it looked like a mirror for the moon. Ferns hung over the edge, dipping their tips into the cool surface. Water lilies floated there, white and pale yellow, glowing in the twilight. Part 5. The Pool of the Nymphs. Hylas knelt by the edge of the pool. The water was cool against his skin as he dipped his pitcher. He watched the ripples spread outward, distorting the reflection of the evening star. But he was not alone. In the depths of the pool, the water nymphs were watching. They were spirits of the spring, creatures made of mist and moonlight and flowing water. When they saw Hylas, so beautiful and young, their hearts were filled with a gentle longing. They did not want to hurt him. They only wanted to keep him, to have his beauty grace their hidden world forever. As Hylas leaned down, a pale arm rose from the water. It was cool and soft, shimmering with droplets. Then another and another. They reached for him, not with violence, but with an embrace. "Come," they seemed to whisper, their voices like the sound of water over stones. "Come stay with us. The world above is hard and weary. Here, the water is always cool. Here, you will never grow old." Hylas felt a strange drowsiness wash over him. The forest faded. The sounds of the Argo seemed very far away. He leaned forward, entranced by the faces beneath the surface. With a gentle splash, he slipped into the water. The surface broke, then settled. The ripples reached the shore and vanished. The pool was still once more, reflecting only the silent stars. Hylas was gone, held in the loving, eternal embrace of the spring. Part 6. The Parting of Ways. Heracles waited. The shadows grew long and purple. The air grew cold. "Hylas," he called. His voice boomed through the trees, shaking the leaves. "Hylas." There was no answer. Only the rustle of the wind in the pine needles. Panic, cold and sharp, seized the great hero's heart. He tore through the woods, breaking branches in his haste. He called and called until his voice grew hoarse. He searched every glade, every hollow, but the forest kept its secret. Back at the ship, the tide was rising. The wind was picking up, blowing fair for the north. The other heroes waited, anxious to depart. They called for Heracles, but only the echo returned. Jason stood on the deck, torn. He could not leave his friends, but the quest drove him on with a relentless force. The sea would not wait. The wind would not hold. Finally, with a heavy heart, Jason gave the order. "We must sail." The Argo pushed off from the pebbles. The men rowed silently, their eyes fixed on the dark tree line, hoping to see the massive figure of Heracles emerge. But the shore remained empty. They left the greatest of their number behind, wandering the woods of Mysia, his grief echoing in the hills. It was a sadness that hung over the ship like a fog, a reminder that every journey demands a price. Part 7. Under the Northern Stars. As the night deepened, the Argo moved further into the unknown. The sea here was darker, the waves higher. They were sailing toward the very edge of the map. Orpheus sensed the sorrow in the crew. He sat at the stern, watching the wake of the ship glow with phosphorescence, tiny green lights swirling in the water like sunken stars. He began to play a new song. It was not a happy tune, but it was not despairing. It was a song of memory. He sang of the strength of Heracles, of the beauty of Hylas. He sang of the way paths cross and separate like currents in the ocean. Drift and flow, the music said. To lose is to remember. To leave is to move forward. The music wove itself into the wind. It comforted the heroes, letting them feel their sadness without being drowned by it. They understood, in the language of the song, that Heracles had his own destiny to fulfill, one that lay on the dry land, while theirs lay upon the salt waves. The stars wheeled overhead, a slow, majestic dance of light. The Great Bear pointed the way north. The wind filled the sail, a steady, guiding hand on their backs. Jason wrapped himself in his cloak, listening to the water rushing past the hull. Shoo, shhh, went the sea. It washed away the guilt, washed away the doubt. It promised only one thing, tomorrow. The ship sailed on, a wooden cradle rocking its children to sleep, carrying them ever closer to the rising sun and the golden prize that waited at the end of the world. Chapter 3. The Magic of the Moon and the Fire of the Earth. Part 1. The River of Mist. After many days of sailing under the watchful eyes of the constellations, the Argo reached the edge of the known world. The sea here was calm and dark, like polished obsidian. Ahead, the great river Phasis rolled its broad waters into the sea, marking the entrance to the land of Colchis. The ship glided into the river mouth. Tall reeds whispered on the banks, "Hush, hush," bowing their heads as the heroes passed. The air was thick with mist and the cry of water birds settling for the night. They rowed quietly, the oars dipping into the fresh water with a soft plip-plop, until they found a hidden backwater, shaded by ancient willows. Here, they anchored. The world felt different in Colchis. The shadows were deeper, the stars seemed brighter and closer to the earth. It was a land of old magic, where the sun god Helios was said to rest his chariot at the end of the day. Jason stood on the deck, looking toward the distant city of Aea. He could see the faint glow of torches and the towering walls of the palace. The Golden Fleece was near. He could feel its presence, a hum in the air like a plucked harp string. Part 2. The Princess of the Shadows. High in the palace of King Eats, there lived a princess named Medea. She was not like other maidens. She was a priestess of Hecate, the goddess of the crossroads and the moon. She knew the names of all the herbs that grew in the secret valleys, and she could whisper to the wind and make it listen. On the day the heroes arrived, destiny wove a new thread into her life. As she walked through the palace courtyards, she saw Jason. He stood tall and bright, like a son of the gods, his spirit shining with a quiet determination. In that moment, a spark was lit in Medea's heart. It was not a roaring fire, but a steady, unquenchable flame, like a candle burning in a windless room. She felt a sudden, fierce desire to protect him, to help him, to be the wind in his sails. She watched him from the shadows of the colonnade, her heart beating a new rhythm. Thump, 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 echoing the footsteps of the hero who had come from across the sea. Part 3. The King's Challenge. The next morning, Jason and a few chosen companions went to the palace to speak with King Eats. The king sat on a throne of ivory and gold, his face stern as a storm cloud. He held a scepter that gleamed with celestial light. "Why have you come to my land?" the king asked, his voice rolling like thunder in the mountains. "I come for the Golden Fleece," Jason answered, his voice calm and respectful. "It is my destiny to bring it home." The king's eyes narrowed. He did not want to part with his greatest treasure. He decided to set a task so impossible that no mortal man could survive it. "You may have the fleece," King Eats said, a cold smile touching his lips. "But first you must prove your worth. In the plain of Ares, I have 2 bulls with hooves of bronze. They breathe fire from their nostrils. You must yoke them to a plow. Then you must sow the field not with grain, but with the teeth of a dragon. From these teeth, armed warriors will spring from the earth. You must defeat them all before the sun sets." The court fell silent. It was a sentence of doom. But Jason did not flinch. He looked the king in the eye and nodded. "I accept the challenge," he said softly. He turned and walked away, his head held high, though his heart was heavy with the weight of the impossible. Part 4. The Garden of Hecate. That night, Sleep would not come to Medea. She tossed and turned, her thoughts filled with the image of Jason facing the fire-breathing bulls. She knew he could not succeed alone. She knew that only her magic could save him. When the moon rose high and round, casting a silver path across the floor of her chamber, she made her decision. She rose and dressed in a dark robe that flowed like water. Quiet as a shadow, she slipped out of the palace and into the night. She walked to the sacred garden of Hecate. It was a place of deep silence and heavy scents. Night-blooming jasmine filled the air with sweetness. Pale white flowers glowed in the darkness like fallen stars. Medea moved among the plants, her hands gentle and sure. She gathered a rare herb called the flower of Prometheus. It had risen from the earth where the blood of a titan had fallen, and it held the power of endurance and invincibility. She crushed the herb into a black stone mortar and mixed it with honey and mountain dew. As she worked, she sang a low, chanting song. The melody wove into the mixture, binding the magic together. Strength of stone, cool of rain, fires burned be all in vain. When she was finished, she had a small jar of ointment, dark and shimmering. It was the Promethean charm. Whoever wore it would be safe from fire and steel for a single day. Part 5. The Meeting at the Shrine. Before the dawn broke, Medea sent a message to Jason, asking him to meet her at the shrine of Hecate in the woods. Jason came alone. The forest was hushed, waiting for the sun. He saw Medea standing by the altar, her veil shimmering in the twilight. She looked up at him, a spirit of the wood, mysterious and kind. They stood together in the quiet glade. Medea's hands trembled slightly as she held out the jar. "Take this," she whispered. "Anoint your body and your weapons with it. It will give you the strength of the gods. The fire of the bulls will feel like a warm summer breeze. The spears of the earthborn men will shatter against your skin." She also told him the secret of the dragon's teeth. "When the warriors rise from the earth," she said, "do not fight them all at once. Throw a great stone into their midst. They will become confused and turn on each other, leaving you the victor." Jason took the jar. He looked at Medea, seeing the fear and the love in her eyes. "I will never forget this," he promised. "If I return to Greece, you shall go with me, and we shall be together always." They parted as the first bird began to sing, two hearts bound by a secret pact under the fading stars. Part 6. The Day of Fire. The sun rose over the plain of Ares. The ground was hard and dry. Crowds of Colchians gathered on the hillsides to watch the stranger meet his doom. King Eats sat on his chariot, confident and proud. Jason arrived. He had anointed himself with Medea's balm. His skin glowed with a faint, unearthly light. He felt light as a feather, yet strong as a mountain. Suddenly, the gates of the pen opened. With a roar like an earthquake, the bronze-footed bulls charged. Fire streamed from their nostrils, scorching the grass. Smoke billowed around them in thick, gray clouds. The heroes on the sidelines held their breath. But Jason stood firm. He walked into the fire. The flames licked at his body, but they did not burn. To Jason, it felt only like the warm sun on a summer day. He reached out and grabbed the horns of the mighty beasts. With a strength that was not entirely his own, he forced their heads down to the earth. He yoked them to the plow. Clang went the bronze yoke. The bulls bellowed, but they obeyed. Jason drove them across the field, the plow carving deep furrows in the hard soil. Into these furrows, he cast the dragon's teeth. Part 7. The Harvest of Spears. By afternoon, the plowing was done. Jason released the bulls, and they fled back to their pen, their bronze hooves thundering. Now, a strange silence fell over the field. Then, the earth began to tremble. Rumble, crack. From the furrows, green shoots appeared. But they were not wheat or corn. They were the tips of helmets. Then came spears, shining in the sun. Then shoulders, armored in bronze. An army of warriors grew out of the ground, fully formed and ready for battle. They turned their blank, fierce eyes toward Jason. But Jason remembered the whisper in the woods. He found a massive stone, round and heavy, lying by the edge of the field. With a mighty heave, he threw it into the middle of the warrior ranks. Crash! The warriors, confused by the sudden impact, thought they were being attacked by their own kind. They turned on each other. The clash of metal rang out, a chaotic symphony of shields and swords. Jason watched as the magical army defeated itself, their forms dissolving back into the earth from which they came. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in blood red and violet, the last warrior fell. The field was silent again. The trial was over. Jason stood alone in the twilight, victorious. He looked up toward the palace, where he knew Medea was watching. He raised his hand in a silent salute. The king stared in disbelief, his face pale. He turned his chariot and rode back to the city without a word, his anger brewing like a storm. But down by the river, the heroes of the Argo cheered. Their voices carried over the water, a song of triumph. Jason walked back to the ship, his steps slow and steady. He washed the dust of the battle from his face in the cool river water. That night, the Argo rocked gently in the reeds. The heroes slept the deep sleep of the victorious. But Jason lay awake for a while, watching the moon rise over the dark mountains, thinking of the princess with the eyes of the knight who had saved him. Chapter 4. The Golden Return. Part 1. The Grove of Shadows. The night deepened, wrapping the land of Colchis in a blanket of velvet darkness. While the city slept, a figure moved silently through the palace gates. It was Medea, her dark cloak fluttering like a shadow. She came to the riverbank where the Argo lay hidden, her steps light upon the dew-covered grass. "Wake," she whispered to Jason. "The time is now." Jason rose without a word. The air was cool and smelled of ancient earth and pine. Hand in hand, they walked away from the river toward the sacred grove of Ares. The grove was a place of deep, heavy silence. The trees here were old oaks, their branches twisted and gnarled, forming a dense canopy that blocked out the stars. Fireflies danced in the gloom, tiny sparks of green light. In the center of the grove stood the great oak tree, and there, hanging from a high branch, was the Golden Fleece. It glowed with a soft, amber light, illuminating the leaves around it like a lantern in a dark room. It looked warm and inviting, a piece of the sun caught in the wood. But at the foot of the tree lay the guardian. Part 2. The Dragon's Lullaby. The dragon was immense, its scales shimmering with a metallic green and gold. It was coiled around the trunk of the oak, its head resting on its paws. But its eyes, great, yellow orbs, were wide open. This was the dragon that never slept. It watched the fleece, unblinking, its breath coming in slow, rhythmic hisses. Hiss, hiss. Jason reached for his sword, but Medea placed a gentle hand on his arm. "No steel," she murmured. "Only song." She stepped forward into the circle of light. The dragon raised its head, a low growl rumbling in its throat. Medea did not flinch. She began to sway, her movements fluid as water. She raised her arms and began to sing. It was a song of the old world, a melody that sounded like the wind sighing through tall grass, like rain falling on dry leaves. It was a lullaby for the earth itself. "Sleep, ancient one," she sang. "Close your eyes of gold. The moon is high, the night is cold. Drift away on tides of old." She reached into her robe and pulled out a branch of juniper, dipped in a potion of poppy juice and river water. She sprinkled the drops toward the dragon's eyes. The dragon blinked. Its head began to sway in time with Medea's song. The yellow eyes grew heavy. The growl softened into a deep, vibrating purr. Slowly, oh so slowly, the great eyelids lowered. With a sigh that rustled the canopy above, the dragon laid its heavy head back down upon the moss. Its breathing deepened. It was asleep. Part 3. Stolen Light. The grove was silent, save for the rhythmic breathing of the dragon. Jason moved forward, stepping carefully over the massive, coiled tail. He reached up. The golden fleece was soft to the touch, like the finest wool, but it radiated a gentle, pulsing heat. He unhooked it from the branch. As he draped it over his shoulders, the golden light spilled over him, lighting up his face and Medea's. They looked at each other, bathed in the glow of triumph. "Come," Medea whispered. "The dawn approaches." They turned and ran back through the woods, the fleece lighting their path like a torch. They reached the riverbank just as the first gray light of morning began to touch the eastern sky. Part 4. The Silent Flight. Push off. Jason cried softly as he leaped onto the deck of the Argo. The heroes woke instantly. They saw the golden fleece glowing on Jason's shoulders and knew the quest was done. There was no time for cheers. They took their places at the oars. Splash heave, splash heave. The Argo shot out of the reeds and into the main current of the river. They rowed with all their strength, putting distance between themselves and the awakening city. By the time the alarm was raised in the palace of King Eats, the ship was already a speck on the horizon, riding the swift current out to the open sea. Medea stood at the stern, watching her homeland fade away. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but Jason stood beside her, his hand in hers, promising a new home and a new life across the waves. Part 5. The Song Against the Storm. The journey home was long and winding, a path traced through myths and memories. They sailed through waters where no ship had gone before. They passed the island of the sirens, creatures with voices so beautiful they could lure sailors to their doom upon the rocks. As the enchanting melody drifted across the waves, "Come to us, rest with us," the heroes felt their eyelids drooping, they were fading. But Orpheus sat upon the deck and tuned his lyre. He played a song of home. He sang of the simple joys, the laughter of children, the smell of baking bread, the warmth of a hearth fire. His music was stronger and truer than the magic of the sirens. It broke their spell, clearing the minds of the crew, and the Argo sailed safely past. They navigated between the wandering rocks, great cliffs that drifted in the sea, crashing together in clouds of spray. But the goddess Hera sent the Nereids, the sea nymphs, to guide them. The nymphs swam alongside the ship, their laughter like bells, passing the Argo from hand to hand through the dangerous waters like a toy, until they reached the calm sea beyond. Part 6. The Sands of Time. The winds blew them far to the south, to the coast of Libya, where the desert meets the sea. A great storm cast the Argo high onto the sands, far from the water. The heroes did not despair. They had come too far to fail. Guided by the spirits of the desert, they performed a feat of immense strength. They lifted their beloved ship onto their shoulders. For 12 days, they walked across the burning sands. Step and step and step. They carried the Argo like a cradle. They endured the heat and the thirst, their footsteps leaving a long trail in the golden dunes. Finally, they reached the Tritonian lake, which led back to the sea. They set the ship down with a splash, the cool water a balm to their weary feet. The god Triton himself rose from the depths to point the way north, back toward the familiar stars of Greece. Part 7. The Golden Sunset. And then, one evening, as the sun was painting the sky in shades of violet and rose, a familiar shape appeared on the horizon. It was Mount Pelion. They were home. The Argo glided into the harbor of Pagasae. The water was calm, reflecting the colors of the sunset. The hull of the ship was weathered, the sails patched, but she had never looked more beautiful. Crowds gathered on the shore. They saw the ship that had been gone for so long, and then they saw the light. The Golden Fleece was draped over the stern, shining with a brilliance that rivaled the setting sun. Jason stepped onto the sand, Medea by his side. The quest was over. The prophecy was fulfilled. The heroes of the Argo laid down their oars. They embraced their families, their laughter mixing with the sound of the waves. That night, a great feast was held. But later, when the fires had died down to embers, a profound silence fell over the harbor. The Argo rested on the beach, the moonlight turning her timbers to silver. The sea lapped gently at the shore. Hush, 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 telling the story of the voyage to the sand, a story that would be whispered for 1,000 years. And so, our journey through these pages comes to a peaceful close. The ship finds its harbor, and the stars watch over the quiet water. Take a final slow breath, letting go of any lingering thought. I'll meet you here again for another quiet tale. Until the next moonrise, may your dreams be gentle and your night serene.